Well, hello, and welcome back. Thanks for joining in on the live stream. And if you are joining live and you want to be able to leave a comment, head on over to Twitter, not Twitter, YouTube. The link is in the description already. And if you are not watching live and you want to check and see if there's an edited version of this video available, although I am a touch behind right now due to some other work that I had going on, you can also check the link in the description and see if the Beyond Code Bootcamp playlist is up to date and has this available in it. That all said, we today are going to be going over a major security flaw that I put in our blog, and we're going to fix it. So let me go ahead, and looks like I can re-roll the intro. Whoops, just clicked the wrong button. Let me re-roll the intro here and get started for the edit. Well, hello, and welcome back. I've taught you to put a very terrible security vulnerability in your blog building blog, and today we're going to fix it. So let me demonstrate what this is. If you've been following along, you have an auto-deploy blog that every time you commit pushes to the server, and then the server builds your blog. Now, if I were to go to build.sh on the website, you will notice that the build script is available from the website, and the blog, and this is not desirable. And you would also notice that any file that is available in the repository would be available on the website, and this could be very, very dangerous. We do not want to do this. So I'll give you one more example of that just to nail it home. If somebody wanted to copy the entire repo, which wouldn't matter because this is a public repo anyway, but let's say that we might have something that we didn't want everybody else getting access to in here, potentially a .env file or something of that nature, which shouldn't be committed to the repository anyway, but bear with me. Here's a hidden folder, and let's say that it's got some hidden interesting things in it. We'll just go with index here, so we can see this on the file system. This is on my local computer, but when I push, everything that is in the repository, including the database itself, gets copied over to the web server. So if I take a look, well, it's going to tell me that it wants to download it because it doesn't recognize the file type, but no matter. The point being that we don't want that to be the way that it is. So we're just going to take a second to fix it. This will be a short one tonight. So we're going to go into our build.sh, and we're just going to make sure that everything that we're creating, we're putting into a build folder. So I'm going to go ahead and say that our build folder's name is going to be dist. That's a very common name for distribution. So every file that we have needs to have a prefix or that we build that we want to be copied over needs to have a prefix in front of it. So let's start with the deploy script. So I'm going to go into our scripts and our server deploy, and I'm going to say that we're going to only deploy the build folder, which should exist after we run build.sh. We don't have one yet, but we will. And then let me go into the other. I thought we had a local deploy here. I guess we don't. Let's see, do we have one there? Indeed we do. So I thought that I was going to rename that. That guy must have just got mixed up because sometimes, like I said, I do these things when they're not recorded and with the intention of going back over it. But let's see what we do if we do a git status. Okay, so there we are. We are on master. And this is hooks. Is this right? I'm just going to do a git pull real quick. Git stash, git pull. Everything's update, git stash pop. Okay, well, I'm not going to worry about that right now. I know what it is. I put the deploy script that we used last time. I had in another repository, so I didn't commit it to this one. It's the one that was in the link in the description. That's what I was confused about. I was wondering why it wasn't committed here, but we're good. Okay, so let's go ahead and say this would actually be a temporary file, so we don't need that one to change quite yet, although it would be nice to have a temporary place for things. So let's go ahead and do it. So we'll have a temporary folder that we'll create with mkdir-p, and then we're going to prefix everything with either temp or with dist. Or wait, did we call it dist or build? I'm sorry. I think I said we were going to call it dist, but then we ended up calling it build. Yeah, we'll just roll with it. We'll call it build. Build is another common name as well. Dist and build are both common. Okay, so source folder, we're not going to change that. We're not going to change how it reads from Git. Yawn, 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 always yawning. Okay, this would be, we could just remove the entire build folder. So we don't need to remove specific, oh, this is while read. Okay, so out here, outside of our loop, before we enter our loop, let's just go ahead and entirely delete our build folder. And in fact, before we create our temp folder, let's go ahead and entirely remove our temp folder. And then we don't need this line anymore, so we can get rid of that. And then I'm going to go back down to where our build is. And then we don't need that anymore because that will be guaranteed to be gone. And then, let's see, that is being kept up in a string. And then this one, we're going to be putting into the temporary place. And then this one as well, I think, yeah. My created, my partial. Yep. That looks right. And then this one, we will have go into build because this is the output HTML. And then we can go ahead and let it delete the temp file. That's fine. So I'm just going through and I'm finding every place where there's a temporary file that's part of the build process or that's a result file that we actually want to distribute out. And I'm updating the prefixes that are in front of it. That's all we're doing here. And then I don't need to change that. Okay, and I wouldn't need to get rid of this anymore because it's going to go into the build folder. Let's see, this I think we do need to, that's going to be in the temp folder. We were generating it. And then this will go into the build folder. And then this would be in the temp folder. Okay, so let's just run this locally and see what happens here. All right. We must not have created our build folder. So let's go back in here. Okay, we remove our build folder, but we do not create it anew. There we go. So we need to create our new build folder to replace the one that we delete. We delete first, and then we create it. All right, let's try it out. All right, looks good. So we should see temporary directory is empty because it's cleaning up as it goes. And we should see our build directory has our index and all of our files in it. So I think that looks good. We will need to update our .gitignore so that it ignores our temp directory and that it ignores our build directory. Okay, looking good. And then let's get rid of this index.md, which was a temporary file. Let's run our build again and make sure, whoops, I meant to do a git status. Command K to clear. Git status. Okay, so our index.md is still being generated in the wrong place. So let me do a search. Sorry, I'm going to go up to the top here, hit / to search, index.md. There I see temp files being created. There we go. Forgot to add the prefix there. Anywhere else? Nope, looks good. Okay, so get rid of that. Run again. Whoops. Run again. Make sure that, whoops, Command K to clear, get status. Okay, cool. This looks right. So I'm going to add the get ignore. I'm going to add the build sh, and I'm going to add the hooks deploy and the scripts deploy. And I'm actually going to go ahead and move the hooks deploy into scripts local deploy, because if I'm not mistaken, if I run that scripts local deploy, yeah, that's going to go ahead and rsync for us. Yep, that's great. Oh, there's one more thing that we want to do here. Now this one, before we commit this and have it run on the server, let's update our server deploy. The server deploy should run with delete on rsync. Now this can be dangerous, because what this is going to mean is that it is going to do a perfect synchronization of the remote folder, or the local build folder with the remote build folder, which in this case, when we have the delete flag, means that it will remove files that do not exist in the other location. So we could also use a backup flag. I'm not going to use that in this case because I know exactly what I'm doing, and I'm not worried about having any losses because I'm only going from an authoritative copy to a ephemeral copy, as it were, on the server. But most of the time, if I'm going to use delete, if there's any sort of question about possible data loss of original files, I'm going to be using the backup and backup dir options, which look like this. Backup and then backup dir, and then you give it maybe something like build.back. Whoops. Might look like that. But I'm not going to do that. And we're just going to commit this all. Let me do get status one more time. Okay, I did modify that. Let me add that. Definitely want that change in there. Okay, so I'm going to do, because right now, if without having used that rsync option, all the old files, even though I redeployed, all the old files are still there. It's the older version of the old files, but they're all still there. So with that delete option, when we do this push, that stuff's going to get deleted. You'll see in just a second. Okay, get status one last time. Looks good. So we're going to say security. Is that how we spell security? Late night brain. Okay, only copy public disk/build files into web server directory. Kind of a long commit, but we'll go with it. And then we push it to the server, and we should see the build messages from the server. And indeed, we also see all these nice delete messages from the server. So now, if I go to what was it, build.sh? What? Oh, okay. Cached version in the browser. We come up with a blank page, probably because my 404 isn't set properly. But there we are. We fixed a security vulnerability in our code. There's a couple other things we need to do. We need to break that bash script down into functions. And I'm thinking, this is what I'm thinking, we want to have a nice header and a footer. We'll get rid of this created at that's not being templated out, because currently we're using the same template for the index page as for the blog pages. Probably need to split those out. But I'm thinking we add a nice header, and it says up here, your first name, your last name, and then we can have different pages. So we could have, this is the list page, maybe this is the main page, the index page, but then we can have a page that is maybe about or contact or something like that. And this won't be very much different from what we're already doing. We'll just take a little bit of what we've done, we'll put it in some functions, and then we'll make it so that we can pass in a directory and do that same loop that we're doing over the source directory now that's creating this list, but we won't necessarily create the list. We'll just have it output the files and have our links in our template pages. So with that, we've done a good thing. Congratulations. Your blog is now more secure in case you make mistakes like committing passwords into the repository, which hopefully you don't ever do, but you might at some point. Definitely don't want stuff that's in the repository being made available publicly. But we're all good now. So you have an excellent night. Sleep well or work well or whatever it is that you're doing right now. And oh, of course, if this was useful to you, if you had any little aha moments or found out something you didn't know before, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you want to subscribe to the live streams, link in the description. If you want to subscribe to the Beyond Code Bootcamp channel and playlist, in the description. And if you've got any questions or comments for me, I really would love to know. If you got any comments, if you want to put the time code, that's great. If not, that's fine too. But I'd love to know any comments that you have, constructive feedback, and questions that you have, especially if you want to ask me something about computer science or JavaScript or Go or Bash or whatever it is, Markdown. Go ahead and send me a message at _BeyondCode on Twitter. That is the best way to do it. And I will look forward to answering that for you in one of these live streams. All right? Okay, now, good night for reals. Adios. Why is I don't understand. Half the time